Disloyalty and the secret safe. New Yorker magazine says the bloodhounds are on the president's heels. That's the cover of the magazine. But is it true? David Pecker, the owner of the National Enquirer and the president's longtime friend, has been granted immunity by federal prosecutors. The AP is reporting Mr. Pecker kept potentially damaging documents inside a secret safe at the offices of the National Enquirer, a tabloid greatly admired by Mr. Trump.
I've always said, why didn't the National Enquirer get the Pulitzer Prize for Edwards and O.J. Simpson and all of these things?
Okay, so the president went on from there, further extolling the virtues of the National Enquirer. Criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi joins me now. He's also a host on the Law and Order on the Law and Crime Network. There's more breaking news this morning. In fact, this just crossed our desk. According to the Wall Street Journal, Bob, Alan Weisselberg, who is the longtime Trump Organization CFO, the guy who kept the books, he has been granted immunity by federal prosecutors. This is big, and you're going to help me explain why. So, Mr. Pecker, who owns the National Enquirer, right? He had a part, supposedly, in the payoffs to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. And Mr. Cohen facilitated this, he says, at the direction of Mr. Trump. Well, Alan Weisselberg is the guy who knows where the money is in the Trump Organization. So explain to viewers why this is such a bombshell.
Well, firstly, good morning, Carol. It's amazing. Listen, I've said this before. The last thing you want, if you are a target of an investigation, is to have your lawyers and your accountants that are cooperating with the prosecutor's office, whether it be state or federal. And I think we're way underestimating state prosecutions in all of this. So what do we know now? Now, in addition to the hush payments, in addition to the fact that we have the Michael Cohen tape that shows clearly the president was aware of what was going on, we have the accountant who was a participant in arranging this, as well as the National Enquirer that now has a safe. I was talking to Rachel Stockman from the Law and Crime Network, and we had a laugh that somebody put out there, Lordy, there's safes. In reference to Comey saying, Lordy, I hope there's tapes. Carol, look, we don't know all the details of this investigation, and I know as a prosecutor, when I had investigations, a lot of people opined about things and didn't know half of the data. But these gyrations of accountants and lawyers cooperating with the federal government spells disaster. The prosecutors are not doing this because there's no information there. They're doing it because they believe there's been a serious criminal violation, and they're getting all the people that know where the skeletons are buried in line in order to connect the dots and to build the case.
Okay, and of course, these crimes have to do with violating campaign finance laws. You have to reveal where the money's going during the campaign, not later after you become president of the United States. You have to say where the money is going. Mr. Cohen, by the way, you know, he had these secret tapes of conversations with Mr. Trump. That's what led to this plea deal with federal prosecutors. And he mentions in those tapes, Mr. Weisselberg, the CFO of Trump Properties, is mentioned. Let's listen.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, you know, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding. Yes, and it's all the stuff, because you know you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be. Correct. So I'm all over that, and I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So no. I got no.
Okay, so you heard in that tape David, as in David Pecker, who is the guy who owns the National Enquirer, and you heard Mr. Cohen mention Alan several times, and Mr. Trump and Mr. Cohen were discussing how exactly those payments would be made to these women, right? And Alan Weisselberg apparently found some way to disguise these payments so that no one could find out that they were made to these women.
Carol,
That's the allegations.
You used the perfect word, disguise. Look, I've been prosecuting for most of my career. I have never seen a more rock-solid case of malintent. This isn't a ministerial mistake. They are literally on that tape discussing a crime and how they're going to set up shell companies and how they're going to funnel money and how Mr. Weisselberg is going to be a participant in that and how afterwards Michael Cohen is not only going to be paid in something that will be put in a ledger as legal fees, which is a falsity, but paid more money than the money that actually went out. I have never seen more evidence in a case, and what's extraordinary to me, Carol, and I'm not a political person, I hope you know that. I call the law as I see it. And it's amazing to me that even friends of mine who are the president's supporters that are law enforcement officials and prosecutors I've worked with for many years are somehow blinded by all of this. Look, take the name Trump out of it and put any one of the defendants I've prosecuted previously for crimes like this, and they would have had handcuffs on people a long time ago. I mean, what is, if you put the politics out of it, Carol, which I wish people would do, because there are ordinary citizens every day, people that are watching your show right now, that go to jail for far less.
Bob Bianchi, thank you for your insight. Always appreciated.